my mic was plugged in. Well, hopefully this isn't giving me chipmunk voice. If it is, somebody let me know. I'm going to go ahead and tell the world that we're streaming. How exciting. Do 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 do. Streaming, game dev, doing mission stuff. I know that you're all shocked, but there is an update available for Visual Studio Code. That almost never happens. And over here. Beep. All right. So I am very tired working on half caffeine and having carried giant jugs of salt all around the city, but hopefully I will wake up. We will see. If not, you'll get a very sleepy stream. It is Wednesday, right? I'm not streaming the wrong time here. Yeah. All right, so last time we started to create a setup where we can view these objects and select them, and you can see how it actually affects the mission system. But there's no chain for the mission system. And I was going to take some time and think about the best way to set up that backend. You know, I don't want to screw it up and have to redo it 18 times. But instead, I made boats and submarines. So you are now looking at someone who has literally hundreds of boats and submarines in a video game. And that took up all my time. So we're going to do it now. Now we already have the basic structure for it. So all we really have to do is create the flow between the elements. If we take a look at this, we're looking for the mission setup, which is somewhere here. Here it is. You can see that we've got these two scenes set up. Now the scenes are not set up properly. There's actually a ton of problems with how they're set up. So we'll just go ahead and realign them, and then we'll start to create our setup. So we're going to do engine challenge, and then we're going to have locate trash. If we located the trash, we're going to notice the explosion early. Otherwise, we're going to notice the explosion late. Down here on limp home, that looks like it is still intact, but of course it's nonsense. These challenges are all empty. It's fine for now. We'll get it working soon enough. The only problem is that these don't have any associated systems, so they can't be solved. So we're going to have to put in an associated system. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to make it so that when you clear these missions, the next element in the mission actually plays. Here you can see that what we've got is a setup where we start with the engine challenge, and when we pass that, we go into locate trash, and when we pass that, we either go down to notice explosion early if we passed it, or notice explosion late if we didn't. So what we've got to do is we've got to understand which scenes are currently running, because there can be more than one scene running at a time. And we need to understand which element is currently active. To make things more complicated, these are not necessarily single challenges, but we have already associated that part. We just have to make sure that we understand what's going on. So let's go ahead and open up the scene script. Doop. Here it is. And what we need now is to make this thing understand how to move to the next element of the scene. Here you can see we've got a list of challenges, and we need to understand where we are in that list, and also what sort of challenges still need to be cleared off our plate. And the basic idea is that regardless of success or failure, you move forward one index. But the question is whether you move forward into a failure or into a success. In addition, we're going to need to keep track of all of the active challenge UIs that have been put into the scene, because when they get cleared, they're going to fail off and die. So if we look down here, you can see there is a challenge UI element right here. And we also have a challenge UI creator, which is right here. I'm not sure if this actually was programmed. Yeah, I guess it was. So if we take a look over here at one of these elements, is it here? Where is it? So what's creating this? There it is. It's on the challenge UI container, of course. So the challenge UI creator is already an object, but it's not a very well thought out one, because all it does is take specific challenges as an argument. What we're going to have to do instead is allow the challenge UI creator to get fed by the scene. So we're just going to open this up and start to put down some notes. We want the scene to feed the challenge UI creator challenges for it to create. It must pass back all of the challenge UIs it created, which in turn are monitored for completion by the scene. Easy enough, right? So in order to do that, we need to change this public list challenges to something else. And that's going to be public void create challenge. Now the key to create challenge is that it's not a void at all. It's a list challenge UI. There we are. The key to create challenge here is that it's not actually going to just create one challenge. It's going to create all challenges on that particular game object, even if they're not the challenge listed. So to do that, we're just going to steal the code from here. And then we're going to delete this. We don't need it. But we do want this to be cleared, so public void clear. We may not ever need to call that, but it's good to have it. So here we're going to go ahead and get all of the challenges on the challenge, like so. And then we're going to go through them all, and we're going to create a challenge UI for it, and then we're going to add that to the list. And then at the end, we're going to pass that list back. Now, for the vast majority of times, that's going to be a list of one thing, but that's fine. All of these should work. Sorry, I had to drink a ton of water there. I don't know if I mentioned, but I'm super buff today from carrying tons and tons of salt around the city, so that means I'm tired and burned out and thirsty, and I had no caffeine. Right. So we now can have the ability for us to... Oh, there's no spawn here anymore. There's also no list challenges anymore. So we now have the ability to call a challenge UI creator with challenges, but we don't know how to find our challenge UI creator because we don't have any ability to create one on our own, and we don't want to link it to the scene. This is just something that should exist in the scene, the game scene, rather than on a scripted scene. So we're going to go ahead and make a live static. Like so. And then in awake, we'll set ourselves up. If live, then destroy live.gameObject, live equals this. Easy enough, right? And now what we can do is we can call it automatically, just from anywhere, using that static variable. We'll create a static function as well. Well, that's not the right kind of bracket. Like so. We'll put in a little bit of a warning here. If not live, then debug.log error, no challenge UI creator found in game scene. Return null. So with that in mind, that should be all we need to create the various objects that we're going to need to create to keep the scene flowing. So to test that, what we've got to do is we've got to trigger the scene to create some objects, and we'll create a function for that. Public void next. And what we'll do here is we will take all of the challenges at the current scene, at the current index, and try and create them. So if index is greater than or equal to length, then return null. We'll actually go ahead and put in a couple of logs here just to make things crystal clear at all times. debug.log warning no next in scene, and then the name of the scene, like so. All right, so we don't need to return null, we just can return like that. What we're going to do next is we have to have a list of challenge UIs. There we go. So now that we've got that list, what we can do is add anything we get from when we call our challenge UI. So challenge UI creator dot create, and then we can pass it a challenge. But what challenge are we going to pass it? That's the question. We also have to store the response. So list challenge UI created equals that, but we also need to pass it a challenge, right? So what challenge will we be passing it? Well, we have a couple of options. One is that we can pass it the failure if we failed. So if we aren't succeeding and there is a failure at this index and failures index does not equal null, then challenge equals failures index. Otherwise, we want to take the successes route, whether we failed or not. Now what we need to do is double check. If there is no challenge, then we're going to skip to, that's not how you spell anything, skip to the next index. Index plus plus, next return. So basically, if we can't find one, that means that we're ready for the next index. And then if we do find one, we do this, and then at the end we have to remember to increment the index. So when we've created a list of these, we can add that to our list of active UIs. Now here's the thing, we actually don't need to do it like this. We can just say active UIs equals, because we're never going to have currently active UI elements in that list and be ready to go on to next. It's not going to happen except in debug modes. So we can just go ahead and set that up like so. We're going to go ahead and, what was it, the way to zoom in? No, there was a way to change the text size, but I don't remember it. It's something strange. Anyway, what we're going to do is we are going to make this a menu item, which allows us to run it as a debug operation, and then we can test it out. Doop. So we shrink this down and shrink this down and go over here to the scene in question. There it is. Hit play. And then tell it next. Doop. And there you can see it's running the engine challenge. If I hit next again, it should run the locate trash challenge, which it did. And then it can run the notice explosion early challenge. Perfect. So because of that, it works fine. And now it should barf an error. See? So that works fine. All we have to do now is make it happen in sequence on its own rather than being triggered in a debug operation. And the way to do that is to monitor the active UIs to see whether or not they are resolved. Now, this should have a function on it that allows it to notify us when it is done, but it does not. So we have to build that. We're going to go ahead and add in a Unity event. Public Unity event on completed or on succeeded on failed. Actually, let's go ahead and make it a bool. Sorry. Public class bool event descends from Unity event bool, and it's empty. It is, oh, it's not a, and we're going to go ahead and make that system.serializable. That's not how you spell Jack. There we go. And then we can tell this that we're going to have a bool event, public bool event on completed. And then down here, what we're going to do is we are going to determine whether or not we've succeeded or not, and then pass it that uncompleted. But right now we don't actually have, oh, the challenge itself. Hold on, the challenge is actually, we don't need to worry about the challenge UI. We need to worry about the challenge. So let's go ahead and remove this. We're going to go over into the challenge itself. There are a list of live challenges, but that's not what we care about. So here is where we actually do the succeeding or the failing. Yeah, so we need to go ahead and inject our code there for doing the actual work. So we're going to just drop this into the challenge file. And then what we're going to do is just drop in our bool event as a function here. So down here at the end. And then up here, what we're going to do is, it's actually not a bool event. It's an int event. No problem. We can just swatch it out. No biggie. So this has an on deactivated, but it doesn't have one that actually communicates how well things went. So that's what we're going to put in. And here, we're going to go ahead and make that happen. So here in if not ongoing, we are going to actually call c.onCompleted with the success rate. That invoke. Perfect. Exciting stuff there. I'm sure you'll agree. So now that the challenge has an event which returns whether or not it was a success or a failure, the scene can sign up for that. And we'll do that when we create these challenges. So here you can see the active UIs. It doesn't actually make too much sense to keep them as active UIs because we don't really care what the UI elements are. The scenes aren't interested in UI elements. All we really need are the challenges that we're getting rather than the challenge UIs. So we're going to go ahead and do exactly that. I'm going to switch these out to challenges instead of challenge UIs. And this as well. And then here, instead of adding the UI, we add the challenge. It's easy enough, right? So for that, we're going to go ahead and save it, and it should just work. The only problem being that we now have to change this to taking in a challenge instead of UIs. So there we are. And then down here, there we go. And then for each of these, for each challenge, C in active challenges, C dot, oh, you know what? There's no way for us to tell what challenge it is because we're only passing an integer. We're not passing a challenge. So we're going to go ahead and call this a resolve event. There might be an easier way to do this. I feel like we are being silly here, but I've seen worse things. No, that wasn't right. There we are. So that should work. And then back here in scene, we'll sign up for them. So C dot on completed dot add listener. And then we can just sell it whatever sort of listener we want. So we'll sell it that. And of course we have to create that. So public void challenge completed. challenge int success. There we are. And now when that's completed, we're going to remove that from the list. Active challenges.remove challenge. If success is less than 0, then, or I guess we can just say succeeding equals success less than 0, greater than 0, greater than or equal to 0. And then we can call next if there are no more active challenges. If active challenges.length count equals 0, then yeah, active challenges next. I got distracted. The Relin stopped in to say, good evening. Did I miss much? No, I've only been going for maybe 15 minutes. Although I have no idea when you said that, so maybe you only missed 2 minutes of it. So now we have a setup where when it runs out of challenges, it should move to the next scene automatically. Let's go ahead and see if we can get that to run. You can see that we've got this there we are. So now when we hit play, the scene won't start on its own because we haven't programmed that yet. But once we start it up with a kickstart, we can then start to resolve these issues like engines. Boom, you can see how now support pops up because that's the next one. And we've got a support of 5, so we're definitely going to succeed. And we're going to get the noticed explosion early, which is another engines challenge. See? So that works great. Everything seems to be happy. Let's go ahead and change the locate trash to a less than 3 and see whether or not we can get the notice explosions late, which is a command challenge. Oh, we've got to trigger it first. Yeah, look, works great. All right, so now that's set up, and now what we have is a sequence through the scenes. Now we haven't got anything like consequences, but we've got the scaffold together. Now the next thing to do is to connect up the scenes in the mission. So here in the mission, we're going to want to have the exact same sort of setup that we had for the scenes in terms of moving from one scene to the next depending on whether you're succeeding or failing. Well, guess what? We just programmed it. It's exactly the same, so there's no big worry about that. We do have to open up the mission script, though. The mission and the scene scripts are nearly identical, so we can just cut and paste. I normally recommend against cutting and pasting. They could descend from the same class instead, but you know what? I don't care that much. I don't want to make any generics, and these are super simple, so whatever. Hooray for cut and paste. All right, so now that we've cut and pasted it, we have to modify it so that it doesn't explode violently. I got scenes instead of challenges. And then we've got active scenes instead of challenges. We could have done that with a rename, but I like to go through this on my own because if you just do a rename, you're going to miss some of the logic differences, and you're going to end up taking more time anyway. Of course, that's why cut and paste code is generally not not something to admire anyway. The only problem I have is if scene is still in the right namespace. I think it is because we're not going to get the Unity scenes. If we do, I'll just change it. No biggie. So here we've got a scene uncompleted, and we don't have an uncompleted for the scene. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down to the mission. We're going to grab... No, it's not the mission, it's a challenge. We're going to grab this, put it on the scene. So this is going to be a scene resolve event. Like so. And then we're going to create one, which is an incomplete. So that goes here. And then when we hit this point down here, challenge completed, here it is. This, when we actually end up running out of, here it is. When we actually end up running out, we just go ahead and complete. Public void complete. That's not how you spell complete. Compelled. Now, unlike the scenes, we're keeping track of succeeding as a Boolean, but you know what? You can keep track of it as an integer instead. And what that'll do is it will let us have amounts of success and failures, which I don't know whether we're ever going to use, but there's no difficulty to it, so we might as well do it. And what we do is when we are called with challenge completed, we just add in the success rate. With the only issue here being that we actually need to make sure that we end up on the correct side. So if succeeding is less than 0 and let's put that here actually. God, your tabs are fucked up. Let's try that again. So if succeeding is less than 0 and success is greater than 0, or greater than or equal to 0, then succeeding equals 0. Can't fail if we succeeded. Now if this goes in here, it doesn't make any difference, does it? All right, so we're going to go ahead and call that completed. And then over here in mission, let's go ahead and rearrange these so they're in the right order. Over here in mission, when we get ourselves a challenge completed, it's going to be scene completed instead. And we can add in success. Now here we don't have a succeeding variable, it's just an integer, so we'll just make that into, there we are, blah, 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 and then this is scene completed. Now why is this barfing here? Oh, because the challenge UI creator has no idea what it's going on. That's not going to be useful. So active scenes equals scene dot next or scene dot start. Scene dot activate. Start is a reserved keyword. So over here in scene, we're going to create an activate. Now, activate obviously calls next, but it does a couple of other things as well. It has to return a list of scenes. So we're going to have a list scene scenes equals new list scene, and then we're going to return that at the end. We're going to add ourselves to it, but what we're really going to do is we're going to check for all scenes attached to us. So scene S, a scene, scenes, scene array scenes equals get components on children, scene, true. I will leave it as false for now. There we are. Now we've got all the scenes that we're going to need. And what we're going to do is we're going to return new list scene scenes. That should work. And what we're going to need to do is for each of these, we're going to call next. For each scene s in scenes s.next. Perfect. Over here in the challenge, no, in the mission, what we're going to do is add the uncompleted. We're already doing it. So that should all work in theory. You think? Let's go ahead and make sure that we have a next. We do. There it's calling. If succeeding is less than 0, succeeding is less than 0. Is that how I typed it in the scene, or did I leave it as something bullshit there? I did. Okay, good. Miles Beer says, good evening. Nice to catch you live again. Yeah, I missed out on last Saturday because I was obsessed with building a submarine and I lost track of time. And by the time I noticed, it was already 5:30, which was 2 hours after my stream usually ends on the weekend. So. Next. Engines, and then when we engineify it, kaboom, support, kaboom, and then engines again. We don't have any more engines. Oh no! So since I don't have the right stuff to do that, what we really need to do is make it so that that resets. And the way to make that reset is to have the turn system call for the next turn, which the scene should do whenever it finishes a set. So next, I'm going to go ahead and resolve turn, but only if the scene is marked as a primary scene. Okay, over here in next, we're going to say if primary scene turn dot next turn. And once again, we'll spawn the mission. See? Nice, right? Void. So that void is this engine challenge here. Should be at any rate. Let's go ahead and test it. Let's go ahead and name it something and give it some stuff. We'll make it a command challenge of size 1 and say scene 2 begins. I don't know why it came up with like just a garbage though. It should have at least had the name correct, right? I guess it's called Engine Challenge, which isn't really the best way to do things. So next. Oh, I see. It's named after the system. That's fine. There, see? Perfect. So now we've got a progression throughout our setup. The only thing left to do is to trigger the mission itself whenever we want to trigger a mission. We can have these missions trigger multiple scenes at the same time if those scenes are within each other. So if I were to drop Limp Home within Travel to Dump, and then trigger the mission, you can see that we've got the scenes running at the same time. That's going to be very important for us when we're creating sort of secondary objectives and stuff like that. We don't want to get stuck being too linear. Now, these scenes have a couple of serious issues with them. They don't have any sort of dialogue to them. They're very, very primitive. They don't really give a flow of a story. All of these things are going to need to be worked on. And I'll probably have to work on them soon. But I'm not sure how much longer I will last, because I've been doing hard stuff all day. So I might be almost done, even though it was only half an hour. What a pathetic stream. I'll keep going for as long as I can, but if I suddenly vanish, you'll know that I had to run off and do some stuff. And don't blame me too much. So what we're going to do next is we're going to start to develop the stories of these things. To do that, we're going to need a method of creating pop-ups. Now, this is something that's a little bit challenging because pop-ups are going to have to include... Oh, you know what? That's what we'll do. We're going to go ahead and do some modeling. So here in the meshes, we've got a couple of meshes already. We're going to just pop this open inside Blender. Okay. There we go. I'm going to just move this aside for a second. No, that's not right. You know what? This is going to get annoying. So let me just switch you over to Phoenix Wright for a moment, and I'll be right back. Jaboom. Objection! And we'll just save this as a new puppet test. Okay, and now we're back. Doom! What we're going to do is we're going to delete all of this stuff because I don't need any of it. And we're going to add in that light again because I do need that light. So, undo. Wow, it's really centered funny. It's been a while since I've cracked open Blender. So we're going to get everything except for these. There we go. Delete. So what I wanted to try is I wanted to try Muppets rather than humans. I've created humans in the past, but I sort of get the feeling that they're a lot of work and the results really aren't that good. Not really sure. You'll have to tell me what you think. But I thought it would be worthwhile to whip up some puppets at least. And, you know, I was thinking that I was going to do it off camera, but clearly I am far too addicted to building submarines and cannot actually be trusted to get anything done. Muppets are a very simple setup in general. They have a dome skull and a hinge jaw. So we're just going to grab this jaw element here. This is the front of the sphere, and we're going to want to unselect the back of the sphere. Probably be easier to hide it, so let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to grab this points and hide. Doop. Why did that not? Oh, I guess it doesn't get the far side. Try that again. Hide. And then we can just grab here and do a cut. And then we can unhide. And now what we've got is a mouth. Hey, how are you doing? Obviously, it is a pretty primitive mouth. It doesn't seem like it's quite... Is that quite right? It doesn't look like it... What's going on over there? Oh, I've just got an extra thing selected. Is that right? It cut in a different spot, didn't it? Well, thank you. That's very helpful of you. There we are. Having a hard time getting back into Blender, but this should be a really, really simple setup, so, you know. What? What happened to the friggin' mouth? Somehow it bonded all of the verts when I only wanted it to bond those two there. Just these two, please. Come on, seriously? Wait, does appear to be... Am I screwed? What am I doing? Let's just go ahead and do this the easy way. Goodbye. There we are. Easy as pie. And now, we don't have any weirdness. Hey, how are you doing? Obviously, we have the weirdness of this being a thing in the first place. But what we can do is just adjust this. And we've started it as a circle. We don't really need it as a circle. What we really need this is, just a test here. Yeah. What we really need this is a, deleted it one early here. Hold on. There we are. Is like a barrel. I have got to remember how to do this shit. I don't know how I got so rusty. So just shrink it down and bring it like this. And that may not seem very different, but it's quite different. That will allow us to create an armature that will give us some quick little animations for the head. Llewellyn says, let's not get stuck on hair again for 3 weeks. Well, that is definitely something I'm thinking about, but I didn't get stuck on hair. I got stuck on Unity eating my project and destroying absolutely everything I'd worked on. That was, the hair was just a way to get something done while I was steaming. And I'm still steaming, but not as badly. So what we're going to try and do here is get a jaw set up. And I believe it's that. And we can just extrude straight forward here. And then extrude up here. And then we can just go here, and then P, and then with armature, with automatic weights, and then we can grab. Why can't I grab? That's strange. I don't remember it being that obnoxious. And you can see that what we've got is automatic weights grabbing the top and the bottom of the mouth at the same time. So that's really not what we want. What we would like to have is it just grabbing. You know what? I'm really doing this the wrong way. This head is not what we want. I was trying to get away with doing something fast and easy, and I made it harder because I'm just not very bright. So what we're going to do is start with the jaw, and it's just going to be a very, very basic jaw like this. And we're just kind of blocking it in at this point. Later on, we can go back and make it more interesting. And then we're going to just duplicate here, and then extrude up, and then extrude in, and you know, we're not trying to get anything specific right now. We're trying to get it so that it feels like it exists. Punch this out into its own object. What we'll do is we will bind it here with automatic weights, and then here with automatic weights. And the reason we're doing those separately is because that way we have the ability to repaint them really, really easily. In particular, we're going to want to repaint this. Now, since these are all completely temporary, there's no particular need for us to worry about it too much in terms of what it looks like or how it feels. We're just getting a feel for whether or not the setup in general might be, reasonable. What the hell is going on? Is backface culling screwed up? Is this inverted? It's inverted. That's why it bound to the wrong bone. That's fine though. We can fix it. Can we fix it? Yes, we can. All right. So now what we're going to do is the same thing here. Weight paint, and once again we're going to weight paint the back. And you can see how its mirror is completely broken. You can see how it's not even attempting to get the right mirror going here. It's just like randomly spewing crap. That's because the triangulation of this is done in a weird hatch pattern. It's not really built to work. And that's never going to resolve itself. But if we are working with it more aggressively, can I set this up to use an X mirror and have that work? Yeah, it works. It's not perfect. You can see how the triangles don't quite work out, but that's fine. And here, you can hear that someone has left their car on annoyance mode outside my house. Important stuff. This is super basic stuff, right? In fact, this is so basic that it's too basic, and we'll probably have to end up doing some completely different setup. Not really sure what the best option would be. I've never tried to model a puppet before, but it can't be harder than a human. The only reason I'm having such a hard time is because it's been forever since I opened Blender. So I'm like, I don't remember anything. Like, basic shapes are confusing. So if we were to grab this now, the idea is that we're going to have a couple of different puppet heads. I'm not sure whether, I'm calling them puppets, but I'm not actually sure what they're going to be. They might be like robots. There's a lot of options, but the idea is I think that I'm going to try, maybe not settle on, but I'm going to try to find something that is a lot less human and has slapped together parts, just so that I can have an easier time making my creatures and stuff. You can see how it's not perfect. There's definitely some stupid stuff going on here, but the basic idea is pretty easy. I'm gonna go ahead and do some of this off screen, assuming I can break myself away from Stormworks. I will see you folks next week. I've got to go do something. I am too tired to continue. I've got to go take a nap or drink a liter of coffee or something. So I'll see you next Saturday, assuming that I'm not an idiot, or next Wednesday, as you prefer. And I'm sorry this stream is short. We'll get back to it in full swing. I honestly did not expect this to be as easy as it was. I had already created the backbone ahead of time. A couple of episodes ago, we sat down and we were like, yeah, let's work this out. And I worked it out, and it turned out that working it out right makes it easy to program. Exciting. See you later.